going on, guys? Welcome back into the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. I am your host, Mike Tagliere, here with you guys for another Sunday morning, answering some start-sit questions, going through injuries, going through whatever questions you have on your mind. Thank you again for joining me, as you guys always have this year. It's been a wild, it's been very successful, and you wouldn't be able to tell by my beard because it just keeps getting longer and longer. So you guys are just going to see that as the weeks progress. But I don't know. Maybe I'll shave it at some point. Maybe I won't. But anyways, as I do at the start of every single show, I'm going to let you guys know basically the players that are out this week, the ones that are highly questionable and or doubtful to play, just because there's some people that don't have a chance to look at this stuff throughout the week. So I just want to hit them at the top of the show. You can also see that little bar across the bottom of the screen letting you know who's out, who's doubtful, all that fun stuff. So at the top of the show, Aaron Jones is out, Miles Sanders is out, Joe Mixon's out, Michael Thomas is out, Chris Godwin's out. Those were all, that's 5 players that were drafted in the first 2 rounds that are out. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey already missed that game, back on Thursday. So that's 6 top 24 picks in fantasy drafts that are out this week. Chris Godwin, as I mentioned, is out. Jamison Crowder is not going to play. Braxton Berrios will take his spot on the field against the Chiefs. Deebo Samuel not going to play for the 49ers. Emmanuel Sanders is out. Julian Edelman is out. Austin Hooper is out. The ones that are highly questionable, well, Andy Dalton was actually ruled out already. That's already done. The weird one that we had to pay attention to that we really haven't gotten much news on is the Seattle backfield because Carlos Hyde has been ruled as doubtful, so he's probably not going to play. He didn't practice all week. Chris Carson is being listed as questionable, even though he didn't practice all week, because Pete Carroll said that basically he did not want to. He didn't want them to work in practice to give them a better shot to play on Sunday. But Chris Carson, it sounded like he was dealing with the same injury that Joe Mixon was, so it seems like it would be a couple-week thing. I don't know. I can't see Carson playing here, but it's possible. If you do have Chris Carson and you're relying on him, my suggestion would be to grab DJ Dallas, because DJ Dallas is the running back who would step in and play the majority of snaps if and when Carlos Hyde is ruled out. Other ones, Mark Ingram, not going to play. He's out for this week. He actually might be out multiple weeks. Phillip Lindsay, we apparently got news that he's going to play this week. It seems like he's expected to. We never got a full clear, like he was done with the concussion protocol yesterday, so I don't know. Allen Robinson is going to play, and then Devonta Freeman is not expected to play. Allen Robinson was upgraded. He was doubtful. Now he's playing, so there's a lot of stuff going on there. But that wraps that up, guys. I don't want to spend too much time there. I want to spend a lot more time on the questions that you guys have. So, let's get into some questions. Guys, give me when you guys put in your question in the chat, I always forget to do this, so I'm glad that I remembered. When you put your question in there, limit it to 2 or 3 players. If there's like 4 or 5 players, I can't answer it because I need to get to as many questions as I can. So understand that, please. I do want to take a second, do me a favor, and click the like button if you guys have enjoyed the show so far this year. And if you haven't, please click the subscribe button, because again, if we want to do more videos, we need the YouTube channel to grow, and if we see that subscriber count keep growing, then basically we're going to be doing more and more videos. So let's get into this, and hopefully I'll try and answer your question. I don't go in any specific order, but I'll just start grabbing them. All right, so Tar Heel asked, Allen Robinson or Adam Thielen full PPR? I'm going to go with Adam Thielen. There's concerns with both of these players with weather. That's another thing that we'll be talking about through the show. There's some games that are going to be severely impacted by weather. Up in Green Bay, apparently there's 25-mile-an-hour sustained winds, and there are going to be up to 51-mile-an-hour gusts, which is just crazy for a passing game, especially someone like Kirk Cousins, who's been taking a lot of shots down the field. I don't think any quarterback in the league has averaged more deep in terms of percentage of passes than Kirk Cousins, so this could really affect them. But Allen Robinson in Chicago also dealing with winds here. I went out for a walk this morning, and it was brutal. It was cold and it was windy. It's like 25-mile-an-hour winds here as well. Allen Robinson probably going to see a lot of Marshawn Lattimore, who is better than he's played this year. But I mean, Robinson didn't get cleared until yesterday, so I don't know how much in the game plan he's actually going to be involved. Because again, they had him listed as doubtful. I'd go Thielen there. It's not pretty with either game, but I would go Thielen. Josh Allen or Joe Burrow? I'm going to play Josh Allen. He just gives me the higher floor. That's another game where there's a lot of wind in Cleveland. Cincinnati, whatever. Cincinnati in Ohio. But Joe Burrow is going to deal with some wins there too. I do like Burrow still. I think he's going to be fine. It's not like his game is massively impacted by the win as much as these other games are. But Josh Allen just gives you a higher floor. Knowing that New England is without Stephon Gilmore definitely upgrades the matchup for their entire team. They're not running the ball particularly well, so they're going to have to move through Josh Allen. I just think he gives you a higher floor. Even though he's played like crap the last couple of weeks, his floor has been there. So I'd play Josh Allen. Kyle asks, longtime listener, Stafford or Baker with windy weather? I mean, that's a toss-up for me. I'm not particularly high on either of those guys. Right now I'm looking, I just pulled up my rankings so I could see and tell you. I have Stafford at 16. I have Mayfield at 17. So, I mean, I guess Stafford is probably the safer play considering, the win factor. I mean, that's probably why I'd go at Stafford. I'm not excited about it. Indianapolis hasn't been as good as advertised at the beginning of the year, but Matthew Stafford has also not really lived up to expectations. He's performing well below expectations. So I have Stafford one spot higher if that helps you, but I'm not high on either of those guys. If Jimmy Garoppolo is available, I'd play Garoppolo over both of them. Let's see. Chris asks, good morning. Tags, good morning. Half PPR, Tevin Coleman, Jalen Reagor, Nelson Aguilar, DJ Dallas. All right, Chris, I already read your question, so I'm going to answer it, but please, guys, narrow it down to 2 or 3 players. I want to get to as many as I can. In that situation, I'm probably going to play Tevin Coleman. I mean, if he's activated, oh no, we don't want another spider thing today. There's spider web down there. But Tevin Coleman is he's activated, so it's, they've talked about tired legs with Jerick McKinnon. JaMychal Hasty has not seen a big role early in games, still hasn't had more than 9 carries in a game, so I would probably play Tevin Coleman here. I'm not excited, but I would play. Reagor's too much of a hit or miss play. I don't know how much Philadelphia is going to need to throw. They have thrown the ball a lot in positive game scripts, which is something that bodes well for Carson Wentz, and it's something that it forced me to move him up as the week went on. Aguilar dealing with the wind in that game. DJ Dallas, we don't have any answers about. If Chris Carson is out, I'd probably play DJ Dallas. But as of now, I'm expecting Carson to be active. I don't like it, but I'm going to play Coleman. I think of those options. Play 20 minutes by Little Uzi. Parker or Claypool. I don't like the matchup for either of these guys, man. I do think that Parker probably has a higher floor than Claypool. But Claypool has that one play upside, right? Where I think I have these guys right next to each other in the rankings, where Devontae Parker playing with a rookie quarterback in his first start against that Los Angeles Rams front, he's going to be pressured nonstop. Will he target Devontae Parker nearly as much as Ryan Fitzpatrick did? I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be a lot more targets to the tight end. I don't know if he's going to check down a lot. I would imagine they're going to go with somewhat of a run-heavy game script in his first game against that defensive front. Parker is probably going to see a lot of Jalen Ramsey. I mean, their secondary has been fantastic this year, so I might take the risk with Claypool. I mean, there's a chance that he gets you 1 or 2 points, but there's also a chance that he has that one play that goes for a big score. I don't think that's going to be the case with Parker. He's not going to beat that defense consistently, so I'd probably go with Claypool in that one. B Such asks Kenny Golladay or Keenan Allen. I mean, I like Kenny Golladay just fine, but I'm not going to bench Keenan Allen. If you look at Keenan Allen with Justin Herbert under center, I mean, geez, this guy is getting targeted more than anybody in the league. It's your guaranteed double-digit targets. You can't move the ball on the ground against the Broncos, so I really worry about Justin Jackson. I worry about Joshua Kelly, and Keenan Allen is the guy that moves the ball. Bryce Callahan is back in the slot where he belongs, but he's not a cornerback that's like a shutdown guy. He's good, he's fine, but Keenan Allen's better. So I'm going to play Keenan Allen there. There's no way I could bench Keenan Allen with the way that Herbert's playing, with the way that Keenan Allen's getting targeted. But that's crazy to think that you have to choose between those guys. Anthony asks, flex Hasty or Shepard, half PPR? I mean, I'd probably go with Shepard. I'm guessing this is Sterling Shepard. I don't know if that's... Yeah, because there's definitely a Shepard that's spelled like that on the Packers, but I'm thinking you're talking about Sterling Shepard. If it's Sterling Shepard, I'd play him. If it's Russell Shepard or whoever, I would play probably Hasty, but I'm not excited about either of them, but I'd probably say Sterling Shepard. Kipola asked, good morning. Would you trust Carson if he starts today or roll out Fournette instead? If we don't have any news on Chris Carson, I'm going to play Fournette. Fournette plays after. I take it back. So if Carson starts, I think that I have to play him. If you remember the last time Chris Carson was supposed to miss a game, it was against Miami a couple weeks ago. Everybody went and picked up Carlos Hyde, and that because there was a knee sprain for Chris Carson. Chris Carson surprisingly played that game, and he played really well. Scored 2 touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. So if he plays, I'm assuming he's going to play well, and I would play him over Leonard Fournette, because Fournette, we don't know what his role would be. If he is the true third down back, if that's where they're really looking for him to play, then this is a game that he really shouldn't be used a whole lot, because this game against the Giants, it should be a one-sided game. Like, they should win that game hands down. I would imagine there's enough carries for Fournette and Ronald Jones to get plenty, but if Carson plays, I think I still have to play him over Fournette. Daryl asks, PPR, Landry and Weather or Parker with Tua? I'd still play Landry. The area that Landry's targeted on the field is actually, the short intermediate area, and that's not really going to be affected so much by wind. It's the guys that are targeted down the field. Guys like Henry Ruggs, he's got to be downgraded a little bit. So I would play Landry in the weather over Parker, just because, again, Parker, I don't like his matchup at all. It's the same reason that I told people last week that I didn't like Allen Robinson very much. Sure, he was getting targeted, but teams are not throwing the ball to wide receivers very much against the Rams because their cornerbacks have been so damn good. And again, Parker seems like he would be shadowed by Jalen Ramsey in this game. That's just a terrible matchup because Parker doesn't really get separation as is. He relies on his quarterback to throw into tight coverage, and he wins a lot in tight coverage, but Tua might not be as willing as Ryan Fitzpatrick to throw it into those tight spots. So let's see. James Sir, morning. Justin Herbert or Ryan Tannehill? I have Tannehill higher. I just don't think that it's going to be a particularly high-scoring game between the Chargers and the Broncos, which has forced me to move Herbert down a little bit in my rankings. Tannehill, I am worried about the wind a little bit in that one because that game is all of a sudden projected to have 20, 25-mile-an-hour winds. But Ryan Tannehill, I still think I have to play him against Cincinnati. That team is just not generating a pass rush right now. They traded away Carlos Dunlap this week. They've admitted they're in rebuild mode. And while Derrick Henry should get his, he's going to do just fine. Ryan Tannehill's been able to do well in the games that Henry has because it sets up the play action. He sees a lot of one-on-one battles, but with guys like A.J. Brown who win those consistently, or Jonnu Smith, or even Corey Davis. So I would play Tannehill over Herbert. Let's see. Mo Mundy, PPR, Allen Robinson or Deontay Johnson? Yeah, that's a pretty good question. I think Deontay Johnson's probably being a little bit undervalued this week, considering how much he's being targeted, because I was talking last week about him being a guy that, he's returning to the lineup, and I do think that he still might be the number one, but there was no way he was going to see that 31% target share that he had seen in his healthy games this year. And then he goes out and gets 30% of the targets. So he's clearly that number one guy for them. But Allen Robinson's the same guy, right? And while Marshawn Lattimore is a good cornerback, he hasn't been playing like that shutdown cornerback we've seen in the past. He's allowed a lot of big plays this year. The Saints are allowing tons of big plays. Wide receivers aren't being targeted a whole lot against them either, but when they do get targeted, they allow some big plays. So this is a tale of two guys that are getting targeted a bunch in their offense, both with really tough matchups. I have Allen Robinson a little bit higher. I would have no issue if you wanted to play Deontay Johnson, but that game is supposed to have a little rain too, if I'm not mistaken, between Baltimore and Pittsburgh. So I have Allen Robinson slightly ahead of him. I'm guessing, I think it's like 3 spots in the rankings. Let's see. Patrick asks, Hasty, Coleman, Dobbins. I'm going to remove all uncertainty from that one, and I'm going to play Dobbins. With Mark Ingram out, it's a terrible matchup against Pittsburgh. I wish it was a better matchup for J.K. Dobbins because he's finally going to get the opportunity to touch the ball more than a handful of times. But it is a brutal matchup, but he has that one play upside. He's a guy that can break. If he's getting a dozen touches, there's a chance that he breaks one of those and goes for a big play, whereas Hasty and Coleman, you can't guarantee either of those guys for more than like 8 touches. I do think Coleman's the play in San Francisco this week, coming off the injury. He appears to be fine. They're worried about tired legs early in the season for Jerick McKinnon, who Jerick McKinnon's probably the one that matches up the best in that game against Seattle, but whatever. It's you can't play him. So I'm going to say Dobbins. I'm just going to remove all uncertainty from that 49ers backfield. Ed asks, do I play Mixon, Connors, or Jefferson flex? Well, Mixon's not playing, so that crosses that one out. So it's either James Conner or Justin Jefferson in a PPR flex. I'm going to play James Conner here. I think it would be more of a difficult question if the weather were cooperating. Even if you go back to the one game, so Justin Jefferson has topped 100 yards in 3 of the last 4 games. The one game that he didn't was the game in Seattle, which was a bomb matchup. It was the matchup that everybody wanted, basically expected a shootout, but it was raining a little bit and it was windy. And Kirk Cousins basically was ineffective. They went out through the run game quite a bit. the game in Green Bay is supposed to be extremely windy. Justin Jefferson has been targeted down the field. He's not making his living by catching 10 balls in a game. He's making it by making those big plays. So I'm going to downgrade him a little bit in this game. James Conner, guaranteed touches. Not a great matchup against Baltimore. However, I would say that you could run the ball on Baltimore more than you could pass it on them. I do believe that their front seven is good, but they're not Pittsburgh-level defense. They're not like a team that you just know you're not going to get a top 20 running back play almost every week. So I would play James Conner. Let's see, McKinnon or DJ Dallas. Yeah, this is ugly. This is really ugly. Seattle's game is not till the afternoon, right? Yeah, it's not until that's not obvious. Wow, I'm dumb. So if Chris Carson's out, I'm playing DJ Dallas. If Chris Carson is playing, I would put in McKinnon. I think it's possible that this whole McKinnon thing is just like shadow games and basically watch him walk out and get 12 touches, 15 touches and be like, ugh, it reminds us of Kyle Shanahan. So it just depends on Chris Carson's availability. General Rex asked AJ Green or Robert Woods in a PPR. I have Robert Woods slightly higher. I mean, I'm not like very high on Robert Woods this week. I have him as like a high end wide receiver 3, but combine the fact that his role has been a bit more stable than AJ Green's. His play has been a little bit more stable than AJ Green's, more efficient. But then you add in the wins in that game with Cincinnati, and it's kind of like, all right, maybe it's enough to downgrade Green a little bit. I still have Green in wide receiver 3 territory, but I have Robert Woods slightly higher. They just manufacture touches for him. Whether it be carries, whether it be the short passing game, just get the ball in his hands and let him do some work. His matchup is worse than Cooper Kupp's this week, though, I will say that. CJ asks, start 2 full PPR. Mike Williams, Nelson Aguilar, Chase Claypool. I'd play Mike Williams first, just because Mike Williams has a chance that he's always a guy that can catch 2 touchdowns. It's just the guy that he is. The matchup against Denver is not bad at all. He's going to see a lot of rookie cornerback Michael Ojemudia. I always screw up that last name. That's who he's going to see in coverage the majority of time, and he could win that matchup against that rookie. And then Nelson Aguilar or Chase Claypool. I'd play Claypool. Again, Nelson Aguilar is far from a guarantee. I know he saw 9 targets last week, which is definitely a step in the right direction, but I don't want to trust that just yet, especially in a game where they're expecting a lot of wind. I just can't get there yet with Aguilar. I feel like he's a guy I want to see one more week of high targets before I fully trust him. Chase Claypool, obviously coming off a game which is, I think, 1 target. What was he got? That's obviously not ideal, but he was on the field for most of the snaps. So he's playing that third wide receiver role. He's going to get some targets. He has that boom potential. So I'd play Mike Williams and Chase Claypool. Jesse asks, would you trade Chris Carson and Rashard Higgins for DK Metcalf and David Montgomery? Yeah, I would. Give me DK. Hiroshi. Hey, tags, half PPR, Justin Jackson or Le'Veon Bell. This is the one where like the revenge narrative comes in and people want to know like, oh, is Le'Veon Bell going to have a revenge game against the Jets? And I don't know if Andy Reid's that coach. I mean, he could. It's possible. It's possible that there's a fire inside Le'Veon Bell and he's like, let me get it. Let me get after it. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire is still the number 1 back there. I don't know how many touches Le'Veon Bell is going to get, but Justin Jackson, we could say the same thing about, and he's in a brutal matchup where it's like Le'Veon Bell, it's not a bad matchup against the Jets. I'll take Le'Veon Bell in this one. I don't think that he's like a smash play that, oh, you have to play him, but Justin Jackson's not either. Against the Broncos are a team, like when you look at weighted opportunity they've faced, they've allowed the fewest points per opportunity in the NFL to running backs. So it's a brutal matchup. I'm not particularly high on him, so I guess I'll play Le'Veon Bell there. Alexis asks, Philip Lindsay or Malcolm Brown, half PPR? I mean, you could flip a coin on that one. I mean, I guess Malcolm Brown, Miami is one of the worst defenses in the NFL. Again, that weighted opportunity thing, if you look at that, they're one of the teams that you basically want to play running backs against. Now, Malcolm Brown has had somewhat of a stable role. I just feel like Malcolm Brown is a safer play. Philip Lindsay wasn't at practice all week. He was trying to work his way back from concussion protocol. So I don't know how much they involved in the game plan. He's not involved in the passing game at all. Like legitimately, even though he started last week and he got a lot of carries, he didn't have a single target. So Philip Lindsay, he's a little bit downgraded in PPR formats. Pick 2, half PPR, Diggs, Fulgham, Justin Jefferson. You're going to play Stephon Diggs against New England. You were going to play him with Stephon Gilmore on the field, but with Gilmore out of the game, Stephon Diggs is a guy that, I mean, I have him as like a high-end wide receiver too. I like Diggs this week just fine. And then Jefferson or Fulgham, that's tough. That's really tough because I had Justin Jefferson higher. But this wind is forcing me to reevaluate the rankings. I haven't had a chance to fully digest to like figure out where I want to wind up with these guys. But Fulgham, I'll tell you right now, is right there. So I had Fulgham at wide receiver 18. I had Jefferson at wide receiver 16. Is the wind enough of a concern where I move Fulgham up over him? It might be actually. Just because that game against Dallas, as the week went on, I started to look more and more because whenever I'm like very low on a player, like Carson Wentz was someone earlier in the week, I had him ranked as like the 12th quarterback because I was worried about game script. I was worried about them basically jumping out ahead, running the crap out of the ball, and just kind of like sitting on a lead because the Cowboys can't score points. And then like when you see like the analysts in the industry had him at like 5 or 6, I was like, why are they so high? So I kept looking closer and closer into the game. And obviously we found out that Jalen Reagor was coming back to the lineup. We found that Dallas Goedert is back in the lineup. And then I was like, all right. I'll move him up. And then I started looking into more and more game script. And I was like, all right, what do they do when they're playing in a positive game script? Like not neutral, but positive, like with a lead. And they're throwing the ball, I think, more than all but one other team in the NFL. I'm going to see if I had it still pulled up. I don't know if I did or not. Yes. So they actually are. So when they're playing either in a tie or a lead, the Eagles are passing the ball 62% of the time, which is the highest mark in the NFL. So therefore I was like, okay, even if Dallas can't score points, like if this team's ahead, they're still going to throw a little bit more than an average team would. So I've been moving him up. And Fulgham obviously is his number one wide receiver right now. Alshon Jeffrey's not going to play. Sure, Greg Ward's fine. He's a decent matchup, but you have Jalen Reagor out there to stretch the field. I think Fulgham's the safer play here than Justin Jefferson, but they're so close. It's just the weather might impact that one a little bit, enough to make me say Fulgham. Lewis asks, have PPR, Boston Scott, Galladay, or Boyd? This is tough. I mean, Boston Scott is a guy, he's locked into 15 touches this week. I mean, he might get 20 touches. I don't know how you pass on a running back that's going to get that many touches. Galladay's matchup against Indianapolis, they haven't been a team that, wide receivers smash against, but they also haven't been that great against wide receivers. I have Galladay as, I think, my number 11 receiver. Tyler Boyd I have as my wide receiver 17. So it's not Boyd. So it's either Galladay or Boston Scott. I think I take the guaranteed touches and eliminate that uncertainty because Boston Scott, again, 15 plus guaranteed touches. Like, you don't have to worry about that. And against Dallas, a team that's really struggled to stop much of anything. So I guess I'll go with Boston Scott. Greg asked, Dallas Goedert or Noah Fant? I'm going to go with Goedert here. Noah Fant did not look 100% healthy last week, and he was trying to come back off that high ankle sprain, and that could have had something to do with it. Alberto has started to eat into some of those tight end snaps, some of those routes, some of those targets. That's going to lower Noah Fant's ceiling, and it's not a great matchup against the Chargers. So I would go with Goddard here. I mean, if they're trusting him to play, I think that we probably should too. So, I mean, that's where I'm kind of at. Let's see. Casey asks, start Ayuk or Metcalf? Oh, come on. You are never going to bench DK Metcalf. I'm lower than consensus on DK this week, but I'm not. I am like wide receiver 9, where the consensus rank on him is like wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 4. You're never benching DK. Good morning, David. Allen Robinson or Mike Evans? I'm going to play Mike Evans, I think, just because Allen Robinson, he was listed as doubtful, which like 98% of the time, it means that player is not going to play, which means the Bears legitimately did not even game plan with Allen Robinson going to be available for this game. Now, obviously, they're going to find a way to get him the ball. He's going to get some targets, but it's a very windy day here in Chicago. It's very, very cold. It's not ideal football conditions for a passing game, so I worry about him a little bit. Mike Evans, I mean, with no Chris Godwin in the lineup, he's going to get targets. I mean, against New York, James Bradbury's been pretty good in coverage. Like, in terms of number one receivers, have struggled a little bit against that defense, but I'm going to go with Mike Evans here. I have no faith in the Bears passing game right now. I'm worried about it. Nathan asked, Hollywood Brown or Brandon Ayuk? I think I have Brandon Ayuk higher. I do. I like Marquise Brown this week too, more than the consensus, but I have Brandon Ayuk at 22. I have Marquise Brown at 25. Against Seattle, I mean, that's a team that's just been rocked by wide receivers. I've highlighted these stats in the primer, and if you guys have not, for whatever reason, if you don't know what the primer is, it's an article I write every single week that it's a lot of words. It's like 30 to 35,000 words. It's a paragraph on every player, so I try and highlight the matchups and why it is that you should be playing players, because I believe in process over results. But the Seattle Seahawks this year, there have been, 12 different wide receivers who have finished with at least 15 PPR points against them. Guys, they played 6 games. 6 games, and 12 wide receivers have finished with 15 plus PPR points. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. The floor for Brandon Ayuk should be there. The ceiling should be there for him. I'm playing him if I can. Whereas Hollywood, you're looking for that big play, and Pittsburgh has been a bit prone to that this year. So it's not to say that they can't get it, but it's just more of like it's more of a boom or bust play than Brandon Ayuk. Let's see. Dunkin' Donuts, full PPR, pick 2. Ayuk, Deontay Johnson, Fulgham. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna play Travis Fulgham. Again, I have him as a top 18 wide receiver this week. I'm gonna play Brandon Ayuk, number 22 wide receiver. I do like Deontay Johnson more than most, but again, he's someone that comes in right behind Ayuk. So it's like I'm a little torn on that one. Like, they're close. I just think Ayuk offers a stable floor, and he should offer a ceiling this week, where Deontay, the floor is probably higher than most realize, but his ceiling might not be massive against the Ravens, because that's a team that it's difficult to get it done over and over and over again against them. So it's close. That's a close one. All right, let's see. Let me take a drink. Thank you guys, obviously, for being here. If you guys can do me a favor, click the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Seriously, we do this every single week. After me, Yates is going to come on for a full hour. Dan does a full hour before me on Instagram. We're trying to do as much video as we can for you guys, so hopefully you guys are appreciating it. All right. Whew. NF Insane. Goddard or Jonnu Smith? I'm going to play Jonnu. If you go and actually look at the matchups against Cincinnati recently, the tight ends that have played them. So check this out. Over the last, let's go look over the last 5 weeks. All right. You had Harrison Bryant finish as the tight end 1. You also had David Njoku as tight end 16 in that same game. You had Trey Burton finish as the tight end 3 against them. You had Mark Andrews finish as the tight end 3. You had Tyler Eifert, tight end 33, whatever. And then you had Zach Ertz finishes the tight end 6 against this team. So I do think Jonnu Smith is a guy that his average depth of target is nothing. He's a guy that the wind does not bother me one bit. I actually like him more now that there's wind, because it might lead to more targets for him. He's a guy that they rely on to do a lot after the catch. Whereas Goddard, coming off that injury, it was a bad injury. It's a foot injury. That's something that can add some uncertainty to his projection. So I wouldn't even be shocked if he shared more time with Richard Rodgers than people think. But Jonnu is definitely my guy. Mike, would you trade Le'Veon Bell and Zach Ertz for Austin Eckler? I really don't like trading for hurt players, but if you're talking about players, so you have Zach Ertz, he's hurt, obviously. They have Dallas Goedert back. That's going to eat into some production there. Le'Veon Bell, are you using him as a starter? And if you're not, then yes, I would do that trade. Just because if you're not using him as a starter, you can keep Eckler on your bench for another week or two while he's healing up from that hamstring injury. Because I do expect him to be back, within a couple weeks. So if you don't need him as a starter, yeah, I would do that. Leanne in Texas, he tags, flex Fournette, Henry Ruggs, or Latavius Murray in full point PPR. So Ruggs is being downgraded a little bit. I did like Ruggs as like a sleeper play, but with this wind, I mean, his average depth of target is one of the highest in the NFL. That's definitely going to hurt his projection. I really hope that the Raiders would use him in a different role, that they would try and get him the ball in space, let him create after the catch, because that's what he does best. But they haven't done that to this point. So Latavius Murray in a full point PPR, that hurts a bit because he's really not involved in the passing game at all. It's more like touchdown or bust for him. And it's not to say he can't against the Bears, but I would rather play Fournette. Fournette is in a similar situation to Latavius Murray in terms of I actually think that the Bucs are going to score more points this week than the Saints. So you could say even a higher powered offense and against a lesser opponent, and a guy that does catch passes out of the backfield. I think he saw 7 targets last week. So I'm going to play Leonard Fournette, those 3 options. Brian asked Giovanni Bernard or Le'Veon Bell. Giovanni. Giovanni Bernard. Again, I know there's a lot of people that want to play Le'Veon Bell this week, and they're saying that, like, oh, he's a must-play because it's a revenge game. It's against the Jets. I get it, guys. I really do. And I do think that everything in Le'Veon Bell's heart is going to say, oh, I want to score a touchdown. I want to stick it to him. But in the end, he has to get the touches, right? And are the touches going to be there? I don't know. There's uncertainty there, right? Whereas Giovanni Bernard is the only back there. Like, he's getting 15 touches. You don't have to worry about that. The matchup against Tennessee is not great, but it's fine. So I'd play Giovanni just because I think that there's less question marks. Steven asked AJ Green or Chris Carson DJ. Standard league, and I already have T. Higgins starting. I'm going to wait it out. I would wait for Chris Carson or DJ, because if Chris Carson's ruled out, then you'd play DJ Dallas. And if Carson's playing, then you play him over AJ Green. AJ Green, I liked him this week. I do. And I think it's possible that the Bengals are trying to showcase AJ Green for a trade. I don't know that for a fact. This is me just literally throwing out my thoughts here, because they're a team that's obviously, they're giving up on the year, and that's fine. They don't have AJ Green under contract next year. So if he leaves, why not get something for him now? They've already drafted his replacement in T. Higgins. So they have other wide receivers in the depth chart. Mike Thomas, they have Auden Tate, might trade John Ross, who knows? But I would probably just wait on Carson or DJ. Young asks Jamal Williams, Giovanni Bernard, or Adam Thielen, full PPR. I'm going to go with Jamal Williams there. Eliminate all question marks. He's a guy that's locked into 15 touches in a game where there's supposed to be a lot of wind against that Minnesota defense that's kind of crumbling. That's a defense that's in rebuild mode. Chris asks Landry, Le'Veon Bell, or Goddard, full PPR. That's one where I might go with Bell. I think Jarvis Landry might be the correct answer here, but it's Landry or Bell. Honestly, Goddard has question marks enough for me to start one of those other guys over him. But I think I might go at Le'Veon, because the Jets, they're a team that there's going to be a lot of touches available for Kansas City running backs. So Le'Veon, I would say, should get a dozen touches in this game. There's some questions, sure, but I think I'll play Le'Veon over Landry, because, again, I don't think the Browns are going to throw the ball a whole lot this week. Let's see. I'm actually seeing in the background right now the wind out there for that Browns game. They are saying there's a 45% chance of precipitation, so it could rain. Wind gusts up to 46 miles an hour. The sustained winds 28 miles an hour. Wow. That's a lot of wind. So that's got to downgrade those guys. Now, again, Jarvis Landry, short average depth of target, doesn't affect him as much, but I'll go with Le'Veon Bell there. Corey Chapman, half PPR, Zeke or Scott? Yeah, that's funny. I got to that point in the rankings, and I said that if you were like in a DFS showdown slate where you're playing that game, right, Philadelphia or Dallas, and they have the exact same salary, are you really going to pick Boston Scott over Ezekiel Elliott? I could make the case. I really can make the case for Boston Scott. I just don't think I could do it. Ezekiel Elliott, he should get plenty of targets. I would imagine that they're going to try and work their game plan around him. And even though Philadelphia has been a team that stops the run extremely well, Zeke knows this team. They've played in the same offense. Obviously it was a different quarterback, but over the last couple of years, and Zeke's done fine in those games. Like, he hasn't busted or anything like that. So I still play Zeke, but I really, really understand why you might want to play Scott. Let's see. Nux, Fant, or Gesicki? I have Gesicki higher this week. So you think about Tua in his first NFL start, and you're like, okay, how do we get this guy comfortable, right? Targeting tight ends is not a bad idea. Obviously, Mike Gesicki gives him a bigger target, highly athletic, going down the seam. The Rams, that's a position they've somewhat struggled with this year, whereas wide receivers, they completely shut down. So I see Mike Gesicki as being a more open target than I do Devontae Parker or Preston Williams. Mike Gesicki has been working with the scout team quite a bit this year, and so he said he's already been working with Tua, where the other guys haven't. They've been working with Fitzpatrick all along. So I think that Gesicki is going to be fine, whereas Noah Fant, it's not a good matchup against the Chargers. They're not a team to target with anybody, really. And he did not look right last week. And with Albert O coming on, it's like, I don't know. It does help that it seems like Tim Patrick is going to be out. I don't think we've gotten official word on that, so there should be some more targets available, but that seems like it's going to be a very slow-paced game. Let's see. Working my way down. Kevin asks, start Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow? I have Lamar Jackson higher. The rushing upside and the rushing floor is what I'm playing there, right? Like I'm not Burrow I like, but the weather there is starting to be a factor, and it's lowering the floor for someone like Joe Burrow. By the way, the Bengals are also missing 3 starting offensive linemen this game. I mean, the offensive line wasn't good to begin with, so it's like, how much worse can it really get? I mean, if those guys were starting, it can't get any better, including his left tackle, by the way. So Burrow could be under duress against that Tennessee defense. I definitely have to downgrade him a little bit with losing those 3 offensive linemen. So I'd play Lamar Jackson. 3S. Good morning, Tags. Good morning. Adam Thielen, Darrell Henderson for my flex. I'd probably play Thielen there. It's really close because I usually like the guaranteed touches, but if there is someone on the Vikings that I'd say gets guaranteed touches, it's Adam Thielen. I am worried about the weather in that game. Obviously, we've talked about the wind there and the gusts and stuff like that, but Thielen is a guy that's targeted all over the field. He's not a guy that just relies on deep targets or anything like that. No, it's close. It's definitely close. Let's see. Melvin Gordon versus Swift. I would play Melvin Gordon versus his former team. He obviously went out on bad terms with the Chargers. I'm sure he'd like to stick it to him. The Chargers, they came off a game where they allowed James Robinson to score twice. That was the first rushing touchdown they allowed all season, but the yards per carry is there. It's been decent. I think Melvin Gordon's a fine play as a mid to low end RB2, whereas Swift is a little bit more. He's a little iffy, right? Like, I don't like the matchup for Swift. The Colts are very, very, very good against the run. So unless he's involved in the passing game a little bit more than he's been, it's like, all right, the floor is kind of low for someone like DeAndre Swift, who over the last 2 weeks, he's still under 50% of the Lions running back touches. So it's not like he has a workhorse role or anything. So I'd play Gordon. Michael asked Giovanni Bernard or Zeke in standard. I mean, I have Zeke higher. Again, think about it this way. Giovanni Bernard's playing behind a bad offensive line. He's averaged under 4 yards per carry the last couple of years. He's not going to get much done on the ground. Again, missing those 3 offensive linemen. What you're hoping for with Giovanni Bernard is that he's involved in the passing game and he catches a touchdown or something like that. That's definitely possible. But Ezekiel Elliott is going to be involved in all facets of the game. You can get him. He can catch a touchdown. He's going to get more carries. He plays, even though it's not a great offensive line anymore, it's still a better offensive line than Gio's playing behind. So I would play Zeke. Let's see. Nick asked Malcolm Brown, Josh Kelly, DJ Dallas. Half PPR. I need to win. I mean, I need to win too, Nick. I don't like any of them. Seriously, I was talking with Dan Harris this morning, and I asked him. I said, "Where's the upside with Josh Kelly?" I mean, he's a guy that's struggling to run the ball. He's averaged under 3 yards per carry, I think, in 4 of his last 5 games. He's playing against a Denver defense that is legitimately the best in the league in terms of points per opportunity. Where's the upside here? He goes, well, it all comes down to projecting him for a touchdown. Denver, I think, has only allowed 1 or 2 rushing touchdowns in the year, so I don't even know how we can do that. I just don't know where the upside is with him. Malcolm Brown is clearly not getting a workhorse role. He's a guy that's mixed in. Okay. DJ Dallas, he's the guy that it's like you want to wait on to see if Chris Carson plays, because if Carson is held out, this one's easy DJ Dallas for me. But we don't know that. And let me see. The Rams are playing at noon, so you're not going to know that. I guess you're going to play Joshua Kelly. I don't like it, but I don't like it. Taylor asked MVS, Kendrick Bourne, or Shepard, pick 2. Not MVS. Like, he's the last guy that you should start now that the wind is a big factor there. So it's Kendrick Bourne and Shepard for me. MVS is a guy that I didn't think was a bad guy to target and is like a Hail Mary play this week. And it was because Minnesota's terrible against the pass right now. Terrible. We saw MVS go off in week 1 against them, but he's also a guy that has struggled recently. The Vikings I think they're down 3 cornerbacks for this game. I know that's at least 2 of them. Holton Hill and Mike Hughes are out. I want to say that there was another one that I saw. So they're down 2 or 3 cornerbacks. But again, that wind in MVS, he's a guy that makes his living off the deep target. He doesn't catch intermediate targets. He's not targeted in that area of the field. So I'm downgrading him quite a bit. I would play Bourne and Shepard. Let's see. Darrell Henderson or Ronald Jones. I'll go Darrell Henderson. I mean, they're both in similar territory. I'm going to pull up my rankings so I can just tell you flat out where they're at. I have Darrell Henderson at RB15. I have Ronald Jones at RB17. So they're right by each other. but I feel like Darrell Henderson has been playing too well. And Miami is a team that, let me tell you, the points per opportunity, I want to say that they are the now, of course, my Excel is not responding, but they're a team that allows one of the higher points per opportunity to running backs. And this game is weird. I don't know what to expect, because if you go through and the line on this game, so the Rams, you would think, would be favored by a lot against the Dolphins, right? You would think so. This is a team that's 5-2. They've been playing great defense. Like, what is going on here? The spread on this game is down to 3. I don't understand it one bit. I don't know why. I don't know why it's down to 3. This has me concerned, because there are certain times where it's like odds makers and they know some things that we don't. I don't know how a rookie quarterback's going to play well against that Rams defense. I don't at all. So I think that should be considered. I would think it would be a blowout, but Vegas seems to think otherwise, or odds makers, whatever. So that's something I am a little bit worried about. All right. But I would play Darrell Henderson. Eric Ebron or Dallas Goedert, half PPR. I'd go Goddard there. Ben Roethlisberger, when he plays on the road in Baltimore, he hasn't been particularly good, and he obviously has more receiving options than ever. So I'd go with Goddard and hope that he's healthy, and because the matchup is good against Dallas. Playing Boston Scott or Le'Veon Bell feels bad, man. No, it doesn't feel bad to play Boston Scott this week. I mean, he's a guy that's a borderline RB1. Play him. All right. Let's see. Half PPR, Philip Lindsay or Ruggs. I'd play Lindsay. I mean, I'm not excited about it, but he did start last week over Melvin Gordon. He had the whole first series. So that's something you have to factor in. Henry Ruggs playing that high wind game, with gusts up to 48 miles an hour, I think I said. It said on the broadcast. That's worrisome for Ruggs. So, yeah. Let's see. Mark asks, hey, Tags, I have PPR, Kelly, Moss, or Bourne in the flex. I have Zach Moss higher than Devin Singletary this week. I don't even know if I should be saying that out loud. It's almost like I'm trying to project this before it's happened, but it's getting closer. We saw Zach Moss see a much larger snap share last week. We saw him equal the same amount of touches as Devin Singletary. We saw him outproduce Devin Singletary. It feels like the team needs to move on from Devin Singletary in terms of like in a major role. I think they need to see what they have in Zach Moss. The Patriots have not been a particularly efficient defense this year. They're not great, and they're missing their best player in the secondary. So I don't know here. This is tough. It's either Zach Moss or Bourne. I do like Kendrick Bourne as a guy that you could find on waivers in most leagues and start him as like a wide receiver 3 flex option. Because, again, Seattle has really struggled. We have the 49ers team who are shorthanded at running back. Missing Deebo Samuel, the targets are there. And in Kendrick Bourne, in every game that Deebo Samuel missed earlier this season, he saw at least 5 targets. So I like Kendrick Bourne a little bit. And that question is tough, man. It's so tough. I might play Kendrick Bourne, to be honest with you. Zach Moss is the one that I'm really contemplating, though. Bruce asks, morning Tags. Good morning. Help. Josh Allen or Justin Herbert, full PPR? I would play Josh Allen. I would. I just feel like the floor is higher with Allen right now with the rushing upside. This is a game where he should run the ball quite a bit against New England, I would think. I don't see the Chargers-Broncos game netting like a whole bunch of points, and that's concerning for Justin Herbert. Robert asks, full PPR, Fant or Hawkinson? I have Fant higher. Hawkinson's matchup against the Colts is not good. The Colts on the year have been like dominant against tight ends. Like, I think they're the best in the league against tight ends right now. Now, the sample size is really small, but there has not been a top 10 tight end against them. Jimmy Graham saw 5 targets. Chris Herndon saw 5 targets. Irv Smith saw 4. None of those guys top 7.3 PPR points. The best performance all year was Austin Hooper. Caught 5 passes for 57 yards against them, but he saw 10 targets. Hawkinson's seeing like 5-6 targets a game. Like, he's not being targeted a whole lot. So that's my concern with him. Fant, again, with Tim Patrick seemingly out for this game, there should be some more targets available. I'm not like locking in Fant, but I would play him over Hawkinson. Let's see. Chalk Talk, Jamal Williams or Jonathan Taylor? Whoo! It's a good one. I have Jonathan Taylor higher. I don't know how you don't play both of them. I think you have to. I mean, I have Jamal Williams as a top 10 running back play this week, so I'm not low on him by any means. I like him. I think you really want to play him. Jonathan Taylor, I think Jonathan Taylor could smash this week. This could be like Jonathan Taylor coming out party against Detroit. For those playing DFS this week, I like Jonathan Taylor quite a bit. Looking at the matchup against Detroit, it's so great on paper, and then you think about the fact that they had their bye week, and it's like they could install. It's almost like they need to unleash him, and they need to let him go, and this could be that week. It really can be. So I like Jonathan Taylor a little bit more than Jamal Williams, but play them both if you can. Semu, start one, Deontay Johnson, Robert Woods, T. Higgins. That one's so tough. I want to say Deontay Johnson. I really do. Because the Rams are not throwing the ball a lot. I think Jared Goff, I don't think he's top 33 pass attempts in his last 6 games or something like that. I don't know if I'm misremembering the number, but it's something like that. And so basically, Robert Woods has been a guy that he's been like 6 targets. There's a game here and there where he has like 8 or 10 targets, but most of the time it's like 5-6 targets consistently, and he's getting some carries, but basically it's there, right? And then you look at Deontay Johnson and you're like, this guy, when he's healthy on the field, like he's getting targeted. So why do we continue to fade him, right? And then T. Higgins, obviously I liked T. Higgins quite a bit, but I think we have to downgrade him a little bit with the win there. Man, this one's really tough. I'm just going to look at my rankings and tell you, I think Robert Woods might be like 1 spot higher than Deontay Johnson. It's exactly where he's at. He's 1 spot higher. But that's a really good question. It's a really tough one. Let's see. Tom Brady or Tannehill? I have Tannehill higher. I mean, Tom Brady, it's the same thing as last week, right? You look at the matchup and you say, okay, this is a matchup that Tampa Bay is going to win. They're probably going to win pretty handily. I think they're double-digit favorites in this game. Does Tom Brady throw the ball in the red zone? Do they give him the ball and do they say, hey, we're going to have you throw 4 touchdowns again? That is absolutely possible, but it's also possible that he throws for 225 yards and 1 touchdown because they'd take the air out of the ball. They don't need to throw the ball a whole lot. Tannehill, that should be a pretty competitive game. The wind is adding up there. Tannehill's not a guy that throws the ball down the field a whole lot. He relies on his receivers to get a lot of yards after the catch. So I have Tannehill higher. He does have a rushing floor as well. So if he takes off running, that obviously raises your floor. I have Tannehill slightly higher than Tom Brady. Aaron, holy cow. Aaron, I cannot answer that question. That is asking me to set your entire lineup. Definitely can't do that. Let's see. Wow, there's a lot of questions here that are like 4 or 5 players in there. Guys, you have to narrow it down to 2 or 3. Otherwise, I have to skip over it. I'm sorry. APP asks, help pick 2, full PPR, Galladay, Keenan Allen, or Stephon Diggs. Whew. I cannot sit Keenan Allen. Can't do it. And then after that, it's Diggs or Galladay. I'm going to go with Galladay. I think it's possible. I mean, you think about the Patriots even before Stephon Gilmore, and they were really, really good against number 1 options, like bracketing players, and I think it's possible they do that with Diggs this week. Josh Allen hasn't played particularly well as of late. I think I have to go with Galladay over him. They're very close. I have Galladay at 11. I have Diggs at 13, so it's not like, I'm running from Diggs or anything like that, but I would play Keenan Allen and Kenny Galladay. Joe Burrow drops how low with the entire offensive line being out? Yeah, there's 3 of them out for this week. This is something that I'm still looking at the wind and trying to factor that into my rankings. I don't want to overreact to anything. Right now I have Burrow at QB 12, so he is moving down a little bit. I might end up at QB 13, QB 14, so I still think he's a fine play because they're not going to be able to run the ball. They're not. And his offensive line has been terrible all year. Let's see. Garrett, who would you seat at flex for Carson? Okay, I'm lost there, but there's also 4 players, so I just have to go. Garrett asks, subtags, Goddard or Sterling Shepard full PPR. I would play Sterling Shepard over Goddard. Goddard's a fine tight end to play, but if you could play a receiver that I went through it, and I mentioned this in the primer, is that Sterling Shepard is a guy that has seen at least 6 targets in each of his last, I don't remember how many games it was. I wish I knew the number off the top of my head, but it was something crazy, 19 games in a row where he's played at least, or he's seen at least 6 targets. So, yeah. Let's see here. So Sterling Shepard is for me. Mikey S, full PPR. Myles Gaskin, Mike Evans, or Brandon Ayuk for the flex. Oh, this one's tough. Myles Gaskin is someone that it's just never sexy to play him. But again, he's the guy in that backfield, right? And Jordan Howard, they're talking about a trade for him potentially, so it means he's probably going to be inactive. Matt Breida is not a guy who gets a whole lot of touches, so Myles Gaskin's like 15 plus touches. It's not a good matchup against the Rams, but he is involved in the passing game too. Mike Evans has really struggled if he doesn't score a touchdown. The Giants have done pretty well against number one wide receivers, but again, Evans should see 10 targets. Brandon Ayuk, good play, not better than Evans in my book. I think I have to go Gaskins here just because I don't really like to pass on guaranteed touches. I really don't. Alex asks, Stanford. Might need to take a drink. Standard flex. Zach Moss, Latavius Murray, Juju, or Rager. I'll probably play Moss. I don't like many of the. I don't like. Moss is like he's a guy that you want to project for a bigger role. It's still not a great matchup against New England. They're not as good as people think they are, but they're not bad. Latavius Murray, tough matchup with the Bears. He's touchdown or bust. He's not involved in the passing game at all. Juju, hate the matchup against Marlon Humphrey in the slot. Hasn't played well. And then Jalen Reagor, boomer bust option, first week off injury. Don't really want to play him. So this one's by default. I think we go to Zach Moss. Big Bad Bosco. James Conner or Jonathan Taylor? Taylor. Yeah, I play Taylor pretty easily in that one. Daniel Bender, start 2, Justin Jefferson, Amari Cooper, and Tyler Boyd. Wow. Yeah, I downgraded Amari once we found out that Andy Dalton was going to be out. Downgraded him to the point where I'd play those other guys over him, and it sucks to say. Amari Cooper is so talented that he shouldn't be that low in the rankings, but he is. So I would play Tyler Boyd over him, and I would play Justin Jefferson over him. PPR flex, Allen Robinson or Justin Jefferson. You want a safe floor. Allen Robinson's the safer floor here. I have Jefferson ranked higher right now, but again, the wins in both of these games are concerning. I think it's more concerning to someone like Justin Jefferson because his average depth of target is way down the field, whereas Allen Robinson's targeted everywhere. They could use him on screens. They can run him on slants. It's not to say that Justin Jefferson can't do those, but we already had concerns about the volume out of that Vikings offense this week because they're a team that runs, I think, like just 56, 58 plays per game on offense, which is one of the lowest marks in the NFL. And then the Packers' opponents only average like 60 plays per game, which is one of the lower marks in the NFL. I think it ranks as the 5th lowest. So we already worried about that. And then you add in the wind, and it's like, I don't think there's a safe floor for Justin Jefferson here. There's still a ceiling with him, but I don't think that I'd say Robinson has a safer floor. All right. Billy asked, hey, Tags, tough choice, Cam, Breeze, or Cousins? Can I choose none of the above? Is Jimmy Garoppolo available? If he's available, play him. If Derek Carr's available, I'd play him, even though there's wind in that game. Like, I'm being completely honest. I will tell you my rankings on those guys right now. I have Cousins at 18. Might downgrade him even more with this wind. I have Cam at 20. I have Breeze at 21. I don't like any of them. I really don't. Nick, start 2. Ryan Tannehill, Lamar Jackson, Tom Brady. Oh, so it's 2 QB league. I have Lamar Jackson and Ryan Tannehill in lineups. They just give you the floor. There's a ceiling with both those players as well. Whereas Tom Brady, there's a ceiling for sure, but there's definitely a lower floor. So I would play Tannehill and Lamar Jackson. Dan asked, Sterling Shepard or Mike Williams half PPR? That one's close. If you want the safe play, it's Shepard. I think there's a safer floor with him. If you're looking for more upside, Mike Williams. Hugo asked, good morning. Good morning. J.K. Dobbins or Justin Jefferson, full PPR? Man, these Jefferson questions are tough, and I really don't know how to feel about this. I never want to overreact to wind because, you know what happens is like everybody blows up on Twitter, and they're like, oh, you can't play this guy because of the wind and this and that. And then like the game literally starts. Like you could see it happening, right? The game starts, and all of a sudden it's like there's a 40-yard pass for a touchdown. And you're like, I knew I shouldn't have overreacted to it. Now, over the course of the whole game, and it's like players that are targeted more down the field, that's who it should affect. And again, Justin Jefferson, I want to pull it up right now. Actually, I'm going to pull it up while I'm talking to you guys because I want to see what his average depth of target is, because I'm almost positive that Justin Jefferson's average depth of target is like over 15 yards down the field, which is not ideal when you're talking about winds that are sustained 25 miles. Oh, wow. That looks like Pittsburgh, Baltimore. It is pouring. Like, that looks messy. That's going to be a messy game. Let's see. Receiving. This is via Next Gen Stats, by the way. Let's see. Adam Thielen's average at the target is actually 14.5. Justin Jefferson is not as high as I thought, 12.6. Maybe I don't move him down as much. I thought it was further down the field. I really did. He's generating a lot of yards after the catch. We know that. But, so yeah, maybe we don't downgrade Justin Jefferson as much. So let's go Justin Jefferson there in a full PPR. Dobbins is someone that I like actually a little bit more than most because he's finally given an opportunity. And in that messy game, I'm guessing he's going to get at least 12 opportunities. Gus Edwards is going to get the majority of carries, sure. But Dobbins offers that one-play upside. I'll go Jefferson, but it's close. The jailbroker, Mike Williams or Gallman, PPR. I would play Mike Williams. There's really no upside with Gallman against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is just so ridiculously good against running backs that, yeah, it's like, okay, I'm going to get a 12-touch floor with Wayne Gallman. Cool. What if that equals 30 or 40 yards? That's not cool. Mike Williams at least gives you multiple touchdown upside. Let's see. J.K. Dobbins or Hasty Carson. This is one where I would absolutely go Dobbins. You know, Carson, even if he plays, I don't know how to trust him. I don't know how to feel about him. It's impossible for me to say that he's a must start like he would be most weeks, because if it's a mid-foot sprain like Joe Mixon, who, by the way, has now missed 2 games because of that, I don't know how Carson's effective. And it's not like it's a good matchup against San Francisco. San Francisco has been one of the better run-stopping units in the NFL this year. So it's not a great matchup. So I would probably go Dobbins there and just play it safe. Like, Carson could always leave the game in the second series. Luke asks, full PPR, Corey Davis or Jerick McKinnon? This one's tough. I mean, maybe I don't know. I don't even want to say Jerick McKinnon. I'll just say Corey Davis because I don't want to say Jerick McKinnon. I don't know what they're doing with him right now. Tyler asks, half PPR, Goddard or Hawkinson? I'd play Goddard. Both are, I mean, Goddard comes with risk of being gone for multiple weeks, coming off of basically a broken foot. Hawkinson, tough matchup against Indianapolis, who has been one of the best teams in the league against tight ends. Joe asks, full PPR, Chris Carson, Boston Scott, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Oh, there's a lot of players there. Yeah, I have to keep going, Joe. I'm sorry. Nazar, Boyd or Galladay in full PPR? I have Galladay higher than Boyd this week. Jimmy G or Carr? That's a good question. I have Jimmy G slightly higher, especially knowing the win concerns that we have for Derek Carr in this game. Now that that's being updated, I have Jimmy Garoppolo as a better option. Let's see. Thank you guys so much again for tuning in. Like, click the like button if you haven't already, guys. It really does help me out. Thank you guys so much. Let's see, Garrett, happy birthday, buddy. 1.1 PPR for the flex spot, Allen Robinson or Myles Gaskin. I'd play Myles Gaskin. Give me the guaranteed touches. I've already talked about Robinson and the fact that I'm worried that he was considered doubtful and therefore was not involved in the game plan. I don't know what the Bears' game plan is on offense. It's to involve players that really aren't as good as the other players that they have on their team. So yeah, it's not a great matchup against the Saints. I think Marshawn Lattimore is just, he hasn't played up to his name this year, but at the same time, it's still not a great matchup for Allen Robinson. My knee asked Diggs, Fulgham, or Evans PPR. I have Diggs as the highest of those 3 guys. I think they're all wide receiver 2s this week. I like them all. Ronnie asked Montgomery or Bell full PPR. I would play, I guess, David Montgomery. Gross, but I just know that the touches are there for him. He's going to get goal line work if they get down in that area of the field. He has been involved a lot in the passing game, whereas Le'Veon Bell, if he doesn't score a touchdown, Le'Veon Bell's going to let you down. Let's see. Robert asks, standard J.K. Dobbins or Joshua Kelly? I'd play Dobbins for sure. Dobbins or Harris? Dobbins. I have Dobbins. I just want to be clear about this. I don't generally like running backs against Pittsburgh, and I still don't. But I think Dobbins, in terms of the role that he has and the one-play upside that he has, being a fresh running back. Like, he's coming off his bye, and he's got fresh legs. Like, he legitimately hasn't been used. J.K. Dobbins, I have at RB 21. So I like Dobbins. I like Dobbins this week more than most. Let's see. Zach Moss, John Brown, CeeDee Lamb. Where'd that question go? While I was thinking about it, I basically gapped it and it went away. I'm sorry. Wentz or Josh Allen? I've moved Wentz to the point where I think I'd play Wentz over Josh Allen. I've talked about the reason I moved Wentz up in my rankings as the week's gone on. So yeah, I would go Wentz. Chris asked, pick 2 full PPR. Josh Jacobs, Giovanni Bernard, or Brandon Ayuk. I would play Josh Jacobs for sure. And then, I almost want to play Ayuk over Giovanni Bernard. It's close though. In a full PPR. No, I don't know. Oh, it's so tough. I'm going to go Josh Jacobs. I'm going to say Brandon Ayuk. That's what I'm going to do. And I think that I'm probably going to be ridiculed endlessly for that one. But guys, Yates is about to take over for a full hour, answer more questions. And if I didn't get to yours, make sure you go ask Yates the question. Check out the primer on the website. There's a paragraph on every player from every game that you're considering. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We appreciate it. You guys rocked all year long. So thank you. And yeah, until next time, lights out.